Hello, hello, hello. This is the Social Distance Reading Series, a project of the Vermont School and Green Mountains Review. I'm Cassandra J. Bruner, an author of the WISHBONE Dress, a chapbook published by Bold City Press. Thank you for joining tonight my little nook of Madison, Wisconsin. Introduction-wise, I'm a trans woman poet and essayist, as well as the 2019 to 2020 J.C. Ruth Halls Fellow at WICW. And my writing has recently appeared in Black Warrior Review, Fairy Tale Review, Prism International, and Third Coast, among others. So first things first tonight, I'm gonna read what, if memory serves, I think is my oldest living poem. So without further ado, frontispiece. I think of how gods prefer their oracles blind and their prophets impotent. How 2 milligrams of estrogen was enough to mold Eve from a shard of bone. If only the world would hush, I could hear my skin thinning. Listen. Sleep is a wasp's nest inside the mouth. Come morning, I am doubled over the sink, spitting seniors and weans, each heave a prayer for a homeland, a recitation of the song of songs. In this manner, the body learns its shape. As I scrub the linings of my cheeks with lemons, the rinds speak in my great-grandmother's voice. Child, your hips have already fused. A gash in my mouth sings of all things made new as it hardens like a cataract. So, my next piece was a kind of persona poem of sorts, like sort of written from the perspective of my mom during like my during my like early transition, and trying to sort of take a good, honest look at what'll happen then, and ways in which like I complicated that process for her too. And so yeah, this is what came of that time. Demeter, the poem as my mother, after Paisley Bechtel's Tiresias. When my child confesses a longing to reshape his body, details a regimen of pills and syringes for this purpose, numbness vines along my spine. The surgeries succumb recalling his seasons of illness, those winters where arrays of IVs and rubber hosing latched into him like the talon of a hawk. Hours spent wondering if surgeons had discovered at last why those rogue cells kept unlacing the fabric of his colon. On the sleepless nights, I'd remember how he disregarded his complaints of dull aches migrating across his gut. How could he have known, he reassures me years later. Still, guilt built its nest in my body, which flares now when I insist you won't menstruate, you won't be man or woman. My child inherited this barbed tongue, says maybe that's the point. Sees, if we're measuring womanhood by shed linings, then I'm as femme as they come. Even over the phone, I know how hurt is dazzling his face. That look of a fawn caught, snap-legged, in a bear trap. This same shawl of panic fell over him in the recovery ward when I scraped flecks of shit from under his thighs. I had learned by then not to gasp at how loosely skin hung from his narrow hips, not the folds of his skirt, not to mention the tarnished rubies of blood in the mess, not to weep until I left the room. Death, like a spouse, has always curled too closely to my child. Once, I found him in the bathroom peeling skin from slashes on his wrist. The shock of blood startled him, not out of fear, but disappointment, as if he thought by shucking off flesh, he would uncover a kinder body beneath. The whispered refrain of "I'm sorry," hushed by the choir of cicadas outside. Should I have recognized their frantic rebodying? How they can't pair with one another without first shedding their former shapes? Should I have known there were sorrows I could not unthread? I'm learning to see my child anew. Copper hair washed out with lavender dyes, lips roseate and burgeoning, chokers cinching the Adam's apple. Our conversations as seasonal collapse into prayer, a bounty of smoke. My child begs, please, just once, call me your daughter. When my mouth opens, I hope lilies will not wilt with frost. Hope warmth unspools from my breath. So for the next couple poems, I'm going to go outside the chapbook, just to, I guess, showcase newer stuff, showcase stuff that, maybe not newer, but was just and other projects are going on at the same time as the chapbook and didn't quite make it in. So the first I'm going to be looking at is kind of from an ongoing series of Persona's poems that I'm calling the Chimera Kids, where the like characters are all people who are like half human and half animal. And so this is one of the this is just one of the, I guess, points in that narrative in that series. Swan Plume Boy descends into Hades. Husked in basement glow, I shed bindings from my feathered arms as blue bottle seniors unroll over another's face. Who cares if the band sings with severed fate strands for vocal cords? If the pomegranate bark unfurls in our drinks, shearing the outermost layer of spirit. Here, my quills lax from needlepoint. Here, I see eider down fielding another's clavicle, and that familiar ache, that crocus of heat and sinew and absent in memory beneath my sternum bulbs out. When they pull me out of the neon pit in nickeled smoke, I remember how Artemis pried Iphigenia from the pyre, whiskered to an oceanic trench. Then the rumors of a would-be sacrifice made newborn goddess creak through jet streams and images of the moon's dry veins, each one reflecting the tones of a disowned girl who takes on a new name and learns how longings, given a necessary distance, will unspool into amber. Do we not do the same? Us, with basalt plumage and backstage hideaways where in shadows we are at once seen and seer, where at last we can project onto each other's retinas and never need rest in another frame. So the other piece I'm going to be reading from outside the book doesn't really need much introduction, so it's kind of a makeshift ekphrastic sort of deal. So yeah, let's just dive in. Abad after Cloud Cahoon and Marcel Moore's Les Mystères des Dames. If there were a garden for us, it would be this velvet diorama, this peep show with its mute audience, the porcelain Adam to our left and mannequined Eve to our right. In an interstice of their gazes, we are all rib, kilns solid yet pliable to breath. So when you find me hooked to the inseminator, I know better now than to apologize. And if the blood and phlegm and cum of us spills over, this is evidence of the spirit here, where you become a greaser seducing a vampirist back to mortality, where I resurrect as a matador inciting a bullhorn succubus to hammer and hammer the earth, where we are the spandex 60s vision of a spacesuit and its umbilicus tether to a moon base, the edge of possibility and stay against harm. My director, you once staged a dream of me held aloft by tinfoil wings. Peeling away their wire frame, you found a slip of cicada skins. Beneath this, tourniquets of electrical tape. In my descent, I kiss belts of dice pairs off your waist. May we never find lasting shapes. May we never finish removing these faces. Because I think I neglected to say it earlier. That one was from the most recent issue, Prism International. So yeah, with that, we'll go back to the chapbook then. So the first thing I'm going to be reading from back here again is a poem from the perspective of one of the other characters in the Chimera Kids series. In this case, like she is like half spider and half human. Spinneret Girl in the Flood. Before sight, sound, before the mad rush of beetles and orb weavers to our porch, we heard the sussers of legs whipping against switchgrass. A loss kind enough to announce its arrival. My brothers turned toward the simple faith and effort rewarded, began hammering pests into mud with brick and steel-toe boot. Each chitinous body cracking open promised our home would not be both mildewed and infested. Cruel jabs of hope. Now, I search for a reason where there is none. The algae shellacking our basement, the crawdads peopling our fields, the 8 oily discs where my eyes should have been. Impulsive believer, I dress as a burnt Joan of Arc one day, chew pentagrams into my lower lip the next. But back when the salt-thick waters rose, an answer, surer and more nameless, surfaced. strands of black silk unwinding from the swollen corners of my lips as I waded deeper. So this next piece, I think, is another one that doesn't require much introduction, so I'm just going to dive into it. Psalm at the end of cicada season. 4 months the swarm fattened the air with noise, with a wax membrane of their wings. Now they've buried their young. Silence opens its forceps in the hollow of afternoon. Underfoot, amber has chimed once more. Is it wrong, God, to want a body emptied of memory? Here, rain bloats an exposed beehive. A collarbone sinks with the heft of its disappeared necklace, and I've spent 17 years translating symbols humming beneath my tendon, muffled and promising as crickets unheard underwater. My next lover will call me her girl, watching as I molt dresses over doorknobs and bedposts. How do I explain the before? The prophets at the family barbecue plucking tum pink coals from the pit. How I swallowed each one, searing, ready to dissolve into its answer. Or the plainer history stifled down my flank, its pockmarks and half-filled ditches. I've been a student of ecstasy so long, I've neglected what comes after. Those words we bury into mattresses, trusting they will turn as butter congealed on dinner plates. Yeah, so the last one I'm going to be reading from tonight is one that I wrote in dedication to a friend of mine, Kimberly Pawlowski, from like a time when we were, based off something that happened a while ago when we were in Tampa. So yeah, without further ado. Drifters, for Kimberly Pawlowski. Do you remember when salt first crisped your tongue? The sharp blessing of it? Between Seattle and Tampa, passenger jets empty their bellies into the uncorrected mouths of mountains. A hunger gone collective, so only an ocean could satiate us. And all our seafood shacks sizzling our names across the bay. Loads of grouper and rainbow tails of shrimp iridesce the grills. Below sightline, takes a pile of crabs. Their diffuse motions, like fatty oils in a saucepan, slide, slower, then settle unwitnessed. What were we? Children of floodplains and gulfs, a displacement of water. Beneath crackle of crustacean, breading against molar, our history's secrets skid across the table, mayflies skating the meniscus of cricks. Outside, a hail of hard footfalls, knuckles against panes. A man's threats crest like white caps over a woman's protest. We go static, cradling our own elbows to stay their trembling. The narrative is moored in my queer blood, your woman blood. The red shift of memory, of fear. Silence falling like an accusation, I eat the crabs, chitin the pith. Wishing I'd laid my hand across your plate, palm upward, a pale offering, a half lemon for want of the whole. And what of the light fractaling the room? Its wordless bulbs greened with solitude, made voyeurs of us all. So, yeah, that's everything I think I have for y'all tonight. Again, most of these poems come from my chapbook, The Wishbone Dress, which you can find copies of through Bull City Press's online shop. And also right now, for the month of April, they will be having a poetry sale for National Poetry Month. So definitely check that out and support the press. Lastly, if you enjoyed these poems, I would also suggest for reading, or for whatever your next books are, like both Leila Shati's Deluge and Patricia Seaborn Hall's Come the Slumberless to the Land of Nod, both of which are available through Copper Canyon Press. Yeah, all that said, thank you again for joining me tonight. Please check out my short Q&A that's going to be over at Green Mountains Review Online. And yeah, so thank you again for your time and your presence, and take care. Bye.